This TFMR podcast is brought to you by your friends at JM Bullion. Visit jmbullion.com for all your gold and silver bullion needs. Welcome back to your TF Metals Report podcast highlights for the week of April 11, 2022. An important week as the week was going to hold a lot of inflation information here in the U.S. We were going to get the latest consumer inflation, the CPI, the latest producer inflation, the PPI, and of course, there's going to be all sorts of other news along the way. We began our podcast on Monday, April the 11th. Talk precious metals at TF Metals Report. If you're going to follow gold, you got to follow basically everything. Keep a close eye on the stock market as well. And curiously, on Monday, a former Fed official, Bill Dudley, told the world the Fed was intent upon breaking the stock market and driving what's called a reverse wealth effect. Okay, well, that's going to have maybe some significant implications. Are stock investors listening? So we took a look at the chart of the S&P 500 on Monday, and here's some of what we discussed. Okay, so what if that now plays out again? Well, what would happen is we'd take out those lows from a couple of weeks ago, the bottom part of that flag where we're going sideways, down 4,200. What did I say? The S&P fell another 10% after that? Another 10% down would take you down to 3,800. 3,700, but I would go even further. Look back on this last chart. Yes, this is now a weekly chart, so I can make this point. That's the 200-week moving average that I left on here. See that low in late 2018? Where did we tap? On that period when they had the Powell pivot. We tapped the 200-week moving average, and then everything changed. Then, of course, you got COVID and this kind of reversal off the 200-week moving average and then soaring with the most recent QE program. I would tell you, with Kolonovich getting bearish, with the Fed telling you they want to crash the market, your ultimate low in the S&P could be all the way down here at the 200-week moving average again, which by the time we get there might be, 3,500? Anybody talking about 20% down from here in the S&P? And we're already down 10. How about another 20? So if that were to happen, well, you got to think that through. What does that do to all the markets? Global margin calls. And what's the bond market doing at that point? How quickly do we get there? How do the mining shares react? But I'm telling you, the precedent is there. That's why I wanted to go through this and show you all this today. And if you've got U.S. equities or global equities for that matter, just be wary. Things could get pretty hairy pretty quickly in the global equities markets, if history is any guide. With Tuesday's soaring consumer inflation in the U.S., gold had a very good day, rallying sharply, and it is beginning to break out and move back toward the highs from early March. It makes for a very compelling case on the chart, and we took a look at the daily chart of COMEX Gold on Tuesday, April the 12th. All right, here is the June gold going back all the way a full year. And that's a little spotty back here in April and May and into June of last year because there wasn't that much trading volume in the June 22 contract a year ago, right? The front month was June 21 and then August 21, okay? So that's why it's kind of spotty back there. But you can clearly see the end of May last year and early June last year, the June 22 contract peaked out at where? 1920. There's that level again. The old all-time high from September of 2011, 1920. Okay, so what has been support now for the last month? 1920. And then I drew on here again for you what we drew yesterday to show you that, hell's bells, we are still, this is a perfect little parabola I've drawn here. The midpoint, right down there below that low 3 weeks ago. What was that, 1895 or something? Anyway, down, base, back up? Maybe. We did not have a podcast on Wednesday, April the 13th. I was traveling that day, so instead of an audio podcast, we had a written podcast, a written post. And one of the charts we discussed that day was a chart of the GDX, which continues to look terrific. It looked great on Wednesday, and then actually had a very solid day on Thursday. And then, of course, the U.S. markets are closed on Friday, Good Friday. So we wrapped up the week on Thursday. One of the charts we discussed was the weekly chart of COMEX Gold. So there's two charts here as we end. We had the GDX daily chart from back on Wednesday. And then as we wrapped up on Thursday, COMEX Gold. Actually, the COMEX Gold on the weekly chart looks a lot like the daily chart we discussed back on Tuesday. This big cup pattern forming. Again, has maybe perhaps some foreshadowing of a big rally as we move later into this month and into May. Certainly looks that way on the chart. That was all part of what we discussed on Thursday, April the 14th, as we wrapped up the week. It's going to be a very busy week next week at TF Metals Report. We invite you to join us. A daily podcast is all part of just one part, I should say, of what you get as a subscriber. You get a written post every morning. You get access to the community. It's a great website at a very important time in the world. So please consider joining us at tfmetalsreport.com. Thank you for listening and have a great weekend.